Hi everyone, it's Miss Grusowski, and I'm here with some story time. I wanted to read aloud for you a new book that has quickly become one of my favorites. It's called A Map into the World, and it's written by an author who lives in St. Paul. Her name is Kao Kalia Yang, and I actually went to college at the same time as Kao Kalia Yang. I didn't know her when I was in college, but I did meet her a few weeks ago, and she signed my book. I wanted to show you. Inside we have a Hmong story cloth. And then she signed my book here. It says, for Kelly, for the seasons of joy and kindness. And so I wanted to share this book with you as we're all stuck in our homes and thinking about how to still be kind to each other. I wanted to read aloud this book to you to the best of my ability. I'm just going over there's going to be some words in here that are in the Hmong language. So one is going to be the word Hmong, which I know how to say. The other is going to be ba nadao, and that is the needlework, like this, the traditional Hmong story cloths. And the next one is going to be tai tai, and that is the word for grandmother on the mom's side. Okay. I'm going to scoot a little bit closer so you can see. Got to keep the fire in there though. Okay. It says, the first time we saw the swing and the slide in the garden of the greenhouse with the big windows, my mother sat down in a chair in the backyard and said she did not want to get up. Tai Tai and I looked at the garden, and she pointed out tomatoes, green beans, and watermelon round as my mother's belly. Tai Tai knelt down to touch the dirt. I asked my mother if I could try the swing, and she said, yes. I have to look up the word, how to say it. Yes. Ba Nadao. So that's actually a girl's name. The greenhouse became our house. I helped Tai Tai hang the special story cloth about how the Hmong got to America on the empty wall by the big window of the living room. We saw an old man and woman through the window. They waved. We waved back. Later, my mother and father brought me across the street. The old man's name was Bob, and the old woman's name was Ruth. Up close, I could see that they were even older than Tai Tai. Tai Tai and I were in the garden picking tomatoes and beans and checking on the watermelon when my parents brought home my baby brothers from the hospital. I ran to the gate. The boys were smaller than my baby dolls, but cuter than any doll with their fuzzy heads and red lips and round brown eyes. Some days the babies cried very loud. I covered my ears with my hands and asked my father to take me outside. Bob and Ruth sat on their special bench. We waved back and forth. The leaves of the two ginkgo trees by Bob and Ruth's house turned yellow like apricots. One day, a brisk wind blew and the fan-shaped leaves came flying down. They covered the grass and the street and the dark mouth of the drain. Bob raked while Ruth sat and watched. I brought in a leaf for the babies to touch, but my mother said, they're still too young. Now I gotta check how we say that word. I need to get better at my Hmong words. She said, they're still too little. Ba Nadao. Look who's come to read. It's Patches. She's here for story time. Isn't that nice? The snow made the world quiet around us. We stopped seeing Bob and Ruth outside. The snowflakes fell on their driveway and glittered in the gray light. I made a ball of snow for my brothers, but it melted before they woke up from their nap. At night, I looked out our big window as Bob and Ruth's house to see their lights shining across the dark street. Sometimes I saw a shape of a person looking back at me. I waved, but the shadow person never waved back. On a cold morning, cars came to our block, filling the street. Car doors slammed as men and women in thick jackets walked quickly to Bob and Ruth's house. My father said, "Ruth has died. Her family's coming to say goodbye." I felt sad for Ruth. My brothers just played with the toys above them. So she's looking out the window, feeling sad. The cars kept coming and going the next day and the next. I swayed back and forth on my toes by the big window. I tried to lift one of my brothers so the people could see how cute he was, but he cried and my mother said, "You're still too little to carry him." Getting stuck on a name. Practice it. Ba Nadal. "You're still too little to carry him, Bob Nadal." After the Hmong New Year, my baby brothers learned how to sit on their own and we all sat looking out the window together. I clapped for them when the plane flew across the high skies. They laughed every time. The house across the street looked empty. The ginkgo trees reached for the sky with their thin fingers. Do you see who's getting involved down here? Patches says, "I want to read the book." This cat, I'm telling you, she wants to be in everything. When the snow started melting, I could not wait to return to the swing and slide and garden. My baby brothers crawled all over the floor, underneath the table and chairs. They were like puppies, their tongues licking everything. I found the first worm of spring on the sidewalk and named her Annette. I wanted to bring her inside so my brothers could watch her, but my mother said, "I don't think so." The world became green again, and finally we all went outside. Tai planted green onions. I picked flowers from the lilac bushes for my brothers to smell. They opened their mouths and tried to eat them. My mother said, "Don't let them eat the flowers." We took the babies outside again the next day after lunch. Bob's garage door opened, and we all watched as he pushed out his special bench. He sat down alone. I pulled on my mother's sleeve until she looked at me. I whispered an idea in her ear. What do you think she's going to whisper? What do you think the idea is? Maybe she can think of a way to help. My mother and I crossed the street and walked over to Bob. I let the sidewalk chalk bucket swing in my hands. I asked my mother to ask Bob if I could draw in his driveway. I said, "If he doesn't like it, the rain will come and wash it away." Bob nodded and said, "Go ahead." My mother and Bob talked in low voices. I could hear Bob say, "Ruth, she was with me for 60 years. I started my picture with a teardrop. And then I made it splatter like sunshine. I drew lines leading away from the splattered sun in many directions. I drew a line that led to the garden. There I put a ginkgo leaf. I drew a line that led to the grass. There I made the sparkling snow. I drew a line to the sidewalk. There I put a smiling worm named Annette. I drew an arrow to our house. There I added lilac flowers. And then I drew a line, the biggest line of all, toward the street, and there I drew the whole world. Look at all those drawings. When I was done, I walked quietly to my mother and to Bob. They stopped talking, and Bob shook my hand. "What did you draw for me?" he asked. I said in a whisper, "A map into the world, just in case you need it." Bob said, "I think I might." Isn't that nice? So she ended up drawing a map to help him get over all of his sadness. And you might be feeling sad right now because you can't go outside like you normally do and can't do fun things. So think about how you could be kind and to help out other people in your life. I want to read you just a little bit about the author. Kalkuya Yang is a Hmong American writer and author of the award-winning books The Late Homecomer, a Hmong family memoir, and The Song Poet. She lives in Minnesota with her husband, her daughter, and twin sons. This is her first picture book. While her family did not get a chance to know Ruth well, Bob is a beloved neighbor and visitor. So this is actually based on a true story about her own daughter and her sons and their neighbor Bob and Ruth. The illustrator is called Seo Kim. A South Korean native, Seo Kim divides her time between Busan, South Korea, and Baltimore, Maryland. She's the head of the illustration program at Towson University and has worked with publishers in Australia and the United Kingdom. A Map into the World is her first picture book to be published in the United States. So that's it for story time today, A Map into the World. I hope you enjoyed it, and you feel free to share this video with other people who you think would like this book. Have a great day.